the record button. Today in the counselor's office, I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor. We're talking about all things Bungie and Destiny. Listen, things are not going hot. I waited specifically to make another video because I wanted more information to come out. There were some leaks that haven't been confirmed, so I want to save those in the back of the video. But we're going to talk about the things that are confirmed and just my thought process on it. Now, I want to make things clear. I do not actively advocate for people to get fired, right? I'm done. As much as I criticize Bungie, I have never said, boy, I want so-and-so to get fired, unless it's Pete Parson, which we'll get to in a minute. Outside of him, I've always thought that we could improve, and Bungie was improving. They were showing that they cared about their player base. We saw steps in the right direction. I've made several videos talking about this. And then we had episodes come out and it was a step in the wrong direction. And of course I gave feedback because of that. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen, Jason Schreier talking about the things that are going on currently that he has kind of summarized, and we're going to read from it. And then I'm going to give some more information. I have a bunch of different tabs open. Let's jump into it. So we're going to read the article from Jason Schreier. The video, I will have the link for you guys to check it out yourself. He is a reputable source. I don't know how to turn the flashbang off. I am so sorry. Yeah, I even have the dark on and it's still just giving us the flashbang. So anyways, we're just going in raw, blind. I'm sorry. Sony's Bungie faces reckoning after mass layoff. I want to point out that people are really hammering Sony for this. This isn't Sony's fault. I feel bad for Sony because they made a bet, or at least a purchase, hoping that the purchase would pay off. And it seemed like Bungie really sold them to Sony. Like, hey, you really want to buy us? And so I feel bad for Sony. We can't blame Sony. And the fact that they're putting Sony in the title, it's like, no, this is just Bungie. Bungie's facing a reckoning. Sony is just hurting because they're the one that flipped the bill. The creator of Halo and Destiny laid off more than 200 people this week, including several top executives. Hi, everyone. Today, we've got a big report on the future of Destiny developer Bungie. But first, okay, there's the news. Destiny changed. This week, Sony Group courts Bungie shrunk from 1,300 employees to roughly 850. Deep cuts that are likely to change the nature of long-running video game developers. Yeah, so I made a video. I was wrong. Supposedly, it wasn't just 220 people laid off. They also put like 100 and something other people in Sony. And then there was another group that was being pushed to work on a different game, an entirely different game. So a lot more than just 17% of the company was moved away from Bungie. There was a lot of people were actually moved away. Bungie, the storied creator of the Halo franchise, which we know and love, and the online game Destiny, said it laid off 220 people Wednesday. Those cuts include several top executives who have been with the company for decades, according to people familiar. Yeah, so we'll get to that. There's definitely some people you know, or at least I know, who got fired. Well, we'll get to that. On the social media, individuals shared their layoff stories, including one person who said they were set to go on maternity leave starting Monday. The company said it also, yeah, I saw that. So apparently they haven't had their kid yet. So they don't get the benefits for maternity because the baby isn't here. They would have got the benefits if the baby was here, but because the baby's not here, that I saw that they're getting screwed over. So that's kind of like, ooh, Bungie, kind of scummy. This company said also hoping to move 155 other to Sony. Yeah, there it is. While a separate group will spin out a new game company within Sony to continue working as an incubation project called Gummy Bears. And we heard about that. That was something that was we thought was canceled. I know another one was canceled, but Gummy Bears, like a mobile game or something like that. Apparently Sony's like, hey, we're going to keep that, but we're going to make it our own thing and our own company. Yeah. This is the second layoff in less than a year for the revered game studio, which was founded in 1991 and has created two of the industry's biggest franchises, Halo and Destiny. But ambitious growth and some big misleads led Bungie to lose money over the last 2 years, forcing the developer to cut costs, freeze salaries, and shred hundreds of workers. I mean, I think so this is not like out of the norm. I think a lot of people during COVID hired a lot because a lot of people were buying games, and let's be honest, money is money. Money is the root of all evil. People want money and people are going to chase money. And that's exactly what gaming companies and other companies did. They capitalized on the big boom. They invested. They overhired. And now that we're back to a normal set of reality and they're no longer getting that enormous amount of funds because of COVID and the fact that people are stuck at home and they're needing new entertainment. Entertainment has restabilized, which means all those hires are no longer needed, and this was always going to be a reality. Now, there were some things that were escalated, not just beyond COVID. I think Bungie has a specific case, if you followed along as much as I have. There is more to the story than just COVID. There is bad leadership, which we'll get to. This week, to learn more about what happened and what comes next, I spoke to 10 current and former Bungie employees who asked not to be identified because they were not authorized to speak to the press. I mean, yeah, duh. They described a company that grew too fast and tried to develop too many projects at once, spreading resources too thin rather than prioritizing the chief moneymaker, Destiny. And I think we all saw that in Lightfall. People were hyped for Destiny 2 Lightfall. It shipped as a garbage can expansion, the worst expansion in Destiny 2 history, or Destiny history. And it's because they spread everyone across to work on different things. They thought they could get away with a half-baked expansion. They thought they could really capitalize and make a lot of money on, like, they had the TV show, they had Gummy Bears, they had another game that was canceled. Then we have what we're coming up with, Payback, a Marathon. Like, they put their hand in the cookie jar and hope that each finger could get money. Like, I'm just gonna get a cookie on each finger, but they realized they should have just went for just the one or two things. But they put all fingers out trying to get a cookie with each finger, and they came back empty-handed. Most of the people were critical of Chief Executive Officer Pete Parsons, saying he had failed to take accountability for his own bad bets and that he'd been overly optimistic in his communication with the staff. Some said Parsons and other company leaders spoke of Bungie magic, a confident mantra similar to ones preached by other elite video game studios that can make anything work out. BioWare magic, Arcane magic. Yeah, that's just their way of saying, hey guys, don't think about it. Don't think about it, guys. That's the mantra. It's the don't think about it. A Bungie spokesperson did not respond to requests for comments. Of course not. Bungie first released Destiny in 2014 in the partnership with Activision Blizzard under a contract that called for the developer to release a new product every year. And we realized that you can't do that with a Destiny style live service. It's not Call of Duty. It was never going to work. Full games alternating with expansions. But the schedule provided unattainable for Bungie, which cut ties with Activision in 2019, largely so it can continue updating Destiny 2 rather than start from scratch with another sequel. Since then, Bungie has transformed Destiny 2 into a live service game, updating it with new content and regular expansions. Again, there is no world that you could ever turn a looter shooter into a looter shooter into like a sequel game that you release every year. That's not sustainable. Look at Borderlands. Borderlands worked because they did make sequels, but they gave it it wasn't every other year that Borderlands is coming out. It just not how those games work out. This isn't a gacha game. And even gacha games continue to thrive because they're live service. In early 2020, during an era of low interest rates and strong positive COVID sales across the industry, Sony purchased Bungie for $3.6 billion. Looking at Destiny 2 as a model for its growing ambition and live service games, Flush with cash, Bungie hired hundreds of new staff members and persuaded a myriad incubation projects, including mobile versions of Destiny, remakes of old games, and a new franchise. Wow, I didn't even know that they were going to remake old games. So that means we could have had a remake of Destiny 1. That would have been dope. It would have been really freaking dope. But the following year, as the industry's pandemic surge slack, Bungie grappled with several problems. An expansion called Lightfall failed to impress fans, while Marathon, an extraction shooter that was well into development, struggled to coalesce. In fact, what he's not saying also is that they actually did a test run of Marathon for people from, it was supposed to be an extraction shooter, so they had people from like Tarkov test it, and they didn't like it. So much so that Bungie has changed it from an extraction shooter to more of like a hero shooter like Overwatch, which is very interesting. Like, those are two different genres. Like, that is a massive difference from extraction to a hero shooter like Marvel Avengers, or not Marvel Avengers, but the Marvel Rivals. Now Overwatch. Like, the fact that they're trying to dip their toes into that, if they do it well, they might be able to steal it. But there's like other, I think, there's another game that's not been received very well. Like, I feel like it's like more of a gamble. I think extraction shooters is just like Destiny. Destiny is kind of like the bread and butter of what it does, and no one's really competed in this space. The same thing with Tarkov. Tarkov has been the premium extraction shooter, where others have tried. There's like some small competition, but nothing as wide as Tarkov. And so if they're wanting to compete in any space, they've got to bring their A game, like Overwatch. Even though people are hating on Blizzard for Overwatch, Overwatch is still the best at what it does. I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out. The following year, struggled to collect. Meanwhile, the Destiny 2 expansion called The Final Shape was also floundering and needed more time together. Yeah, I mean, people who tested The Final Shape also said it was all right, but not good. Like, it was all right. Like, it was mid, which is not something you want for the end of your saga. Imagine if Endgame came out for the Infinity Saga. Like, we just had Infinity War, probably one of the best Marvel movies out. Most people love that. They may not like Endgame, but Endgame was still pretty good, right? It was still like an 8, in my opinion. But Infinity Avengers Endgame, imagine if we got what? Ant-Man and Quantum Mania, or whatever it's called. Like, people hated that movie. It is probably one of the worst Marvel movies. Imagine if that was Endgame instead. That's kind of what I'm thinking about The Final Shape. Like, you can't have a poor landing for your saga. You've got to end very strong. During one grim meeting in late 2020, according to the people familiar, Parsons told the staff that the company had missed its revenue target by 45% and was losing money. Bungie delayed The Final Shape, and Marathon subsequently laid off 100 employees. That is literally the fact that the targeting is set by the leaders. It's not just Pete, right? By the way, let's make it very clear. Pete, even though he is a CEO, there are other people who are in charge of money, who oversees the money sheets. It's not just him. Like, there's other leaders of Bungie that should be held responsible. It's just he gets a lot of the flack because he's out here buying. Yeah, he's over here. CEO is over here buying all the vehicles. This is why P. Parson gets flack. Every car purchased prior to the layoffs. Yeah. Maybe don't do that, B&G Parsons. Maybe just don't show off your wealth. I would agree. I would agree. So that's why people hold him responsible, is because he's done really nothing. He could have took pay cuts. He could have done something to save some people. And it's not like this is just anyone that's getting fired. You have people. Wayne Pern, the narrative leader on The Final Shape, was also affected. So you have main people. The last layoff, we got rid of Salvatore, one of the huge musicians for Destiny 2. I mean, literally, we had the Deep Space Lullaby, beloved by the Destiny fans. And so you have people who roles don't make sense that are being let go. Like, who's going to replace them? You have a narrative lead. Not that some of the episode narratives were like very mid, but the final shape, like, okay, it had a good narrative for the most part. But now, like, who's going to do the narrative? That's my question. Feeling pressure from a parent company seeking increased profitability and facing its own set of challenges, Bungie's executives charted a new course. Both Marathon and Destiny 2 received new leadership as Sony's video game unit replaced its CEO and laid off 900 people. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have to. So Sony is letting people off. Again, this is as expected. This is industry normalism when it comes to the fact that everyone overhired, and Sony is having its own woes, its own struggles, and so they're revamping the whole company. So it makes sense. Earlier this year, Sony Interactive chairman Hiroki, I'm gonna murder his name, Hiroki Totoki, publicly criticized Bungie, saying he wanted to see more accountability. Again, look at management. They overshot their sales. Pete Parsons and other leaders oversold Bungie to Sony. What was it? Beware of over delivery. Let's see. Yeah, here you go. PlayStation boss Jim Ryan says Bungie offers way more value than Activision does for Xbox. I don't think he should be smiling anymore. Listen, I don't care if that he's a PlayStation versus Xbox. Like, I don't care about this, but it is the fact that PlayStation thought they were making a good deal with Bungie, and Bungie's kind of spat in their face. They have not done justice to the $3.6 million. Employees were hopeful that the extra time on the final shape would lead to a great product, and the expansion received rave reviews. But the critical acclaim had little impact on the deeper cuts that were already in work at Bungie. As GameFile's Stephen Totilo reported on Thursday, in a blog post announcing layoffs this week, Parsons acknowledged that the company had grown too much. We were overly ambitious, our financial safety margins were subsequently succeeding, and we began running in the red. Again, that is poor management. And when you don't have Big Brother like Sony overwatching you, it's probably really easy to be too ambitious and spend money that you don't have. How do I know that? Because I will have to do my own bills and realize, oh wow, I spent more than what I meant to, and I'm gonna have to, chill on the I have to make cuts, and so I'm eating ramen and stuff like that. Like, I'm just saying, it's easy to, if you do not hold your leaders accountable, it's easy to overspend. Like, obviously someone's not doing their job if you someone has to keep the money accountable, and someone's failing to do that, and I'm sure that person got fired. I'm sure they got fired. In a blog post announcing layoffs, yeah, and over ambitious, when you are trying to bank on other games succeeding where your bread and butter is Destiny, again, Lightfall, you could very much tell that they took away from the talent from that. You can tell that they did a half-baked job. You can tell it was impacted by their overambition. You can absolutely tell. One of Bungie's big bets was Payback, an incubation project set in the Destiny universe that would shake up the formula in major ways. According to people familiar, it would pivot from a first-person to a third-person perspective and allow players to use the franchise's characters to explore a large world while incorporating to battle monsters and solve puzzles. The pitch took elements from popular games such as Warframe and Genshin Impact. So they were trying to do what I imagine is the First Descendant, right? First Descendant kind of takes a little bit from gacha games, a little bit, with the fact that you have to spend, you can either do it all in game, or you can spend money for efficiency. You can spend money to save time savers, right? The fact that they were trying to make a game to compete with like Warframe and now we have the first descendant, which is popping the crap off. I do have it, right? Yeah. Listen, I don't care about this whole, like, this agenda that people are trying to push. I just thought it was interesting that they got the stats up for me, and that's the only reason I care about. But yeah, if they were trying to make a first descendant 50k in a game, looks like it's going downhill. I'm glad I quit 3 years ago. Yeah, I mean, I have chatters in chat. I mean, look at that. Massive dip. And Bungie was trying to make Payback, which would have been a competitor to the first descendant, which is this, you can't see on the screen, and then Destiny. I mean, yeah, I would have been interested in that. Listen, it would have been a fresh start for some people. It could have been a really cool concept. But I do, just like I said, I don't think they can make a Destiny 3 right now with how they are financially. There's no shot they could ever make a, like, Warframe First Descendant competitor in the Destiny world successfully without financial help. And I was right, because they've canceled it. Although several internet rumors over the last few months have suggested Payback would be a sequel to Destiny, it was a significant departure from the previous two games, according to people, and would have been perceived more as a spin-off. Destiny 3 never was going to happen. I don't know if I have like a tab for that, but Destiny 3 was never going to happen. Insiders have already come out and said it was never on the docket. To all the people thinking that, oh, Destiny 3 is coming, they've got to make a Destiny 3, it was never happening. They were never working on that. But 2 months ago, Bungie canceled Payback to prioritize games that were more imminent, moving the bulk of its team to Marathon, which is targeting a release in 2025. Now, they also took Christopher Barrett from Marathon to help make the final shape. Like, they pulled some of the best talent that used to work on Destiny, who then moved to Marathon, and they pulled them back to help save the expansion. Because, like I said, people tested out the final shape before release, and they're like, this is all right, but not good. And so that's exactly why people got fired, but also because that's why we had such a massive delay. We had like 6-month delay because it was not good enough. Imagine what the final shape would have been if it was released 6 months ago. Holy crap. The goose was cooked. The company also plans to continue updating Destiny 2, although it will no longer pursue regular paid expansions as it did in the past. According to the people familiar, during one recent meeting, a company leader told attendees that sales of each expansion had declined year after year, including June's The Final Shape, so they would be moving away from an annual release model. What he's saying here is every year we would have a big expansion. So we had Beyond Lights, and then we had Witch Queen, and then we have Lightfall, and then we had The Final Shape. But what he's saying is it's gone downhill. Now, this is all because of Lightfall. So let's look at the charts. Let's look at data. Data is important here. So we go over here. We go into like February. This is big number. This is because this is Witch Queen, right? This is Witch Queen. It was released. It was up and down, up and down, up and down. And then we get to here where we have a massive increase. This was Lightfall, by the way. This right here is Lightfall. Ooh. I hate that I can't just go across the board. There we go. This is Lightfall. Massive, probably the biggest, it is the biggest player count we've had in Destiny 2 ever. Bungie had advertised this as being the Infinity War of the Destiny 2 Light versus Dark saga. And so you can imagine people were hyped AF, and they even said that, or they even talked about how it's like the Empire Strikes Back. I think someone actually said that. It was like the version of that. So here we have them hyping up. They're doing great cinematics. We're excited, and people play it, and people play it, and then reality kicks in that this is a hot piece of shit. And then it dies and it dies, and then people come back and they're like, ooh, the first season, the next season, right? Because the Season of Defiance came with it, and Season of Defiance was also Season of Defiance contradicted the actual main expansion, because in the Lightfall, the Witness says he like acts like he doesn't care about anything besides the Veil, which is the MacGuffin of the story. And even one of the main characters, Osiris, says that, hey, this big evil dude never cared about us. He just wanted one thing. We're not even a thing to him. And then in the seasonal content, it was like, oh, well, the Witness wants to destroy us, the power of friendship to stop us. Blah, blah, blah. It was like this weird fan fiction Build-A-Bear story that made no sense. And as you could see, like, it would dip, it would go up, and then it dipped dramatically. It wasn't until we got into the lights in like April and May that was good content. People loved Into the Light. We had Onslaught, we had good loot. People were starting to get a little excited for the final shape because we started getting live streams of actual gameplay. Bungie was getting back on their toes. We were like, hey, we're seeing 360, which is what everyone wanted to see. So as you can see, we got built up until the day of the final shape release. Not as big as Lightfall, but pretty freaking big. And then not even a month, 50% drop off, half the player base gone in a month. That's worse than the Lightfall. We go back to Lightfall. Where was it? Lightfall. It was big number. So Lightfall lasted 1, 2, 3. It lasted like 3 or 4 months before it dipped off. The final shape didn't even last about a month. It didn't even last a month. That's crazy. And I'm going to be honest, there's multiple reasons. 1, this is the end of a saga, so people were going to leave after this anyways. 2, people didn't even bother play Destiny, the final shape, because of Lightfall. They were done with Destiny. They were tired of Bungie's bullcrap. They were never going to stick. But ultimately, what really killed the momentum of the final shape and made people drop off after the month is they had no announcement for the future. All they did was, hey, we've got Destiny Frontiers. All we got was text on a screen. That does not encourage any consumer about the future. Why should I stick around and invest time and play a game that is got nothing in the horizon? There's nothing for me to be excited about. Why should I care about these little mini episodes and chase loot if I've got nothing to really grind for? Like, there's no, when is there going to be a new world's first day 1 raid? No. Well, then why do I care? Right? And that's why you have 50% of the player base just dipping off. The fact that the final shape has done worse than Lightfall on player retention is a red flag. And anyone that wants to cope and hope, like, I'll go to this video. Unironically, I did a video earlier that said the future of Destiny is grim. Players are running away. This was based. This was literally based on the fact that the player base had dropped 50%. So this was before all the news came out. Like, I'm a fortune teller by this title, but that's not what I meant to do. And so we have a lot of interaction, but if you scroll down, there's a couple. This one's my favorite. Whoops. Dude. I hate like screens that try to zoom. Like, I don't want to zoom. There we go. Well, time for the annual game is dying, guys. Griff we get every year. I've deleted several of these comments, mostly because they're just stupid comments. But I kept this one because there's a lot of interaction going on. And so I'm like, I mean, last year Destiny was dying. Lightfall was a colossal failure. People were being fired and sales are extremely low. The final shape is the end of a saga. If there was a time for people to leave, it was now, but cope. And the guy's like, I'm coping just fine. The pinned comment suggests you're not, though. Someone needs to check on this guy. Is he okay? Because the game actually is dying. Someone check on him. But a lot of people like that. It's a lot of people like that. It's just not in my comment section. On Twitter, people are saying the same thing. That, oh, people are just making a big deal. Every year we get Destiny 2's dying. But not every year do you have a dramatic change in the fact that people are firing, leaders are being leaving, the fact that the entire structure of the game room is it's no consistency, which is never good for a video game. Chat says, let's be honest, Destiny was bound to die. I mean, it's 10 years. It's definitely, you could argue that it's run its life like as a series. Mark, a lot of Lightfall numbers are thanks to everyone being home, making free pandemic money. Very true. That is also true. I think, but that's the thing. We had streamers. There was top-notch streamers that came in and played Lightfall or played Destiny and advertised Lightfall. And so you have so many people who are stuck at home. They're watching these streamers because they've got nothing to do. They got money to burn. They're going to play Destiny. And then they realize that this is hot garbage. Do you think those players are going to come back? A lot of them didn't. And a lot of people did come back just for the end of the story. And then they dipped out. As per the stats, like that's exactly what happened. People played the story and dipped out. But you're absolutely right. A lot of the numbers were skewed because of COVID and the fact that people were stuck at home and wanted something fun to play. But when you have like people's favorite streamers streaming and playing a game, of course they're going to want to check that game out. Let's see. Some staff said they're optimistic about the vision of Destiny 2 under new director Tyson Green, a Bungie veteran who took the helm earlier this year. Yeah, I think Tyson literally helped save the Final Shape. He's one of the dudes that was over a marathon and they brought back just to save the Final Shape. And the thing is, Final Shape really is good. Like, it's got a lot of high scores. People are praising it. But the problem with that is it's the end of the saga. There's nothing on the horizon. People aren't hyped for anything. It's a good way to close. Like, it's the end of a book. You close the book, you put it on the shelf, you're done. In the coming months, the people said Bungie will look to retain and attract players with a smaller scale content drop modeling after Into the Light. A well-received update in April that added a new game mode rather than selling this content. They said Bungie will aim to release it for free along with overhauls to activities that it hopes will appeal to hardcore players. Other vague plans for the future include storyline that will feature characters and worlds that Destiny has not explored. Again, if we look at April and May, this free content and free activity brought a lot of people back to Destiny. It could be a really good thing for Destiny. Now, this was about, let's see, 3 months leading into the Final Shape. And we'll get to the leaks, but spoiler, these drops would last about 6 months. That's what's being rumored. Or leaked, should I say. Fans have wondered if Bungie might one day start anew with a Destiny 3, but such projects has not been in development according to people. I just said that. Bungie is instead looking to create a smoother onboarding process for Destiny 2, such as rebranding to attract new players who might be turned off by a game that can now feel impenetrable to those unfamiliar with its ample proper nouns. The biggest problem with Destiny is that its new player experience is bad. It's garbage. They vaulted the main story of Destiny 2, which is the Red War campaign. The reason in existence for Destiny 2 is not even in Destiny 2. And it wasn't because the story was bad. In fact, the Red War story is really good. It's probably one of the better stories that we've had, but they refused to put it back in the game. They refused to put it. That would help people understand a little bit more of what the hell's going on in Destiny 2 if they just put it in the game. Like, it was already in the game and they took it out. So yes, of course it's jarring because you're slapped with 30 different pop-ups who do this, join, buy this content, buy this content, buy this content. Hey, want this dungeon? Hey, do this raid. Hey, 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 hey. And you get that, you overwhelm anyone who's new to Destiny and they don't know what the fuck to do. Pardon my French, but they don't know what to do. I don't want to join a game that's selling me popping up with 30 different ads to buy content that I don't even know what you're talking about because I haven't played the game in the first place. But then I play the game and I have no idea how to play the game because the game doesn't explain how to play the game. I have to look up YouTube's. I have to watch an 10-hour My Name's Bife Lore Master video to catch up to understand what the hell's going on in the story because they removed all the core story parts of the game because they put core story in the seasons, which are then removed after every freaking year. So yes, there's a reason why people are intimidated and don't want to try Destiny 2 because it's horrible. It is a trash garbage for new player experience. It is the worst game I've ever played from a new player experience side of things. And I've tried. I made a fresh account and I experienced it. I tried it. What does it feel like to be a new player? I spent an hour to get through like the base content and I was like, well, it doesn't explain this. It doesn't explain this. It doesn't explain this. It doesn't explain modding. It doesn't explain a lot of the most basic essentials of how to play the game and what you can do. It is so baffling. And a lot of that could have been explained through by having the main campaign. Explaining how do you use your super. Oh, well, this part of the campaign story of the Red War forces you to use it over and over and over again so you understand, oh, this is how I do it. About 3K hours in and hecking hell, this is getting out of hand. Good day. Hey, I don't know if you're implying about Destiny 2, you're 3K hours in and you're out. Yeah, I get it. That a lot of people are done with Destiny because of all the stuff. Like, you've experienced it, and hey, if you finish the final shape, that's a great way to end and hop off, in my opinion. Let's see. But again, it's not just me. Let's see. Here, new player acquisition and point of re-entry for returning players in D2's biggest pain point from a monetization standpoint, and I've been saying it for years. The final shape was fantastic. Hate to see it. Yeah, so like the final shape sold fewer copies. And a lot of people, again, you should not have to watch a 10-hour My Name's Bife YouTube video to get caught up. And that's why a lot of people didn't want to get in Destiny. They're like, okay, this is it. This is the final expansion. It's over. I don't need to play Destiny anymore. Why should I buy a game that's done? And they didn't really advertise it anything differently, right? Again, goes back to the whole Destiny 2 Frontiers announcement. They didn't give us anything to really show like, hey, there's a future ahead of us. It's just, hey, we got something. So, I mean, yeah. And it's just not me. I'm not the only one that thinks that the new player experience and the returning player experience is horrible. Gathalion is a well-known streamer, so if you don't take my word for it, take his. Let's see. Those left at Bungie will now have to make do with a smaller staff, tighter schedules, and a company that looks significantly different than it did 3 days ago. Longtime veterans Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy exited this week, according to people familiar, as did several top leaders, leaving lingering questions about the future of decision-making at Bungie. Now, people were coming out and saying that they got fired. Like, Luke has been part of Destiny since its inception. I think Mark has too as well, but I knew Luke has. Let's be honest. They came out. It finally was released that they didn't get fired. They left on their own, right? They left on their own, and the reason why is they smelt it. Listen, you could see the red flags. Anyone who works in corporate can see red flags when the ship is starting to go down, or when you know you're about to get fired. They just said, you know what, I'm dipping, and they left on their own accord, which looks good on a resume, by the way. It's better for you to leave than you to get fired, because then you're like, oh, what was your last job? Oh, well, I got fired from so-and-so. No, I left this job, and they ask you, why'd you leave? Well, bad management. They were financially having issues. And then it's more on them, less on you. But if you get fired, I mean, that looks bad on a resume when they have to call and say, hey, why'd you fire this person? Death. So more Lightfall had more sales than Final Shape. Not going to how many refunds they had issues though, are they? No, it doesn't say how many refunds they've gotten. I'm sure they've gotten quite a bit of refunds. So here's the thing. If you got like Steam, you get like 2 or 3 hours. And if you took longer than that, you can't get a refund. So if you try to experience Lightfall longer than that, then you're screwed. Bungie staff who lost their job are receiving packages that include at least 3 months of severance and health benefits, said the people familiar. But just like last year's layoffs, anyone who receives stock from the Sony purchase that has not yet vested will watch it disappear. And another painful twist for further turbulent acquisition. Yeah, so people are getting screwed over. My hair is being annoying, so I'm gonna fix it real quick. Yeah, people are getting screwed over still. There you go. I mean, none of this is surprising to me. I'm gonna be honest. I saw on Twitter, people were saying, hey, I'm leaving, I'm stepping away. Like a lot of leaders were just slowly stepping away way before this. And I was like, there's about to be a layoff. I didn't say it because I didn't want to have another video that was like overwhelmingly negative from the community. Like, oh, you just, so I was like, I'm gonna just kind of keep it in my head and see if maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. I turned out I was right. Listen, you can see the red flags. You can smell the bull crap. You can smell it coming. And that's exactly what I smell. I smelled the bull crap. Now, we have like a whole list of people that were fired. They're sounding off. Capture artist, publishing marketing art, narrative related work, mental strain on news. Don't know what that is. Support team product. Yeah, it just goes on. All the list of people being fired. Woo! Anything else I missed on this? Oh yeah, Pete Parsons. Gotta love Pete with his vehicles. Yeah, this one's great. Beware of over delivery, guys. Beware. This mantra definitely saved Destiny. If they just applied what they did to Witch Queen, it's crazy. They had Witch Queen. They had the formula. People loved Witch Queen. And then they made Lightfall because they got way too greedy and ambitious, and they thought they could squeeze out another expansion. Because remember, this is huge. This is a huge thing to remember. Lightfall was never supposed to exist. Lightfall and the Final Shape were supposed to be the same thing, but they split it to make another expansion. That's where the ambition comes from. They tried to milk another expansion and it killed their company because of it. The bad management, the bad leadership, the bad gambles, the greed. This game, Lightfall, this expansion should have never existed. And I tell people anytime they ask, is it worth playing it? I tell them, watch the first cutscene of Lightfall and watch the last cutscene of Lightfall, and you have the entire story of Lightfall. You have everything that's important to the main story, because everything else is filler. It is garbage. It is a waste of your time. It is not worth your money. Even the raid is not worth your money. Who cares about Root of Nightmares unless you're really bad at raiding, in which case Root of Nightmares is really easy. Have at it. Witch Queen was great. Amazing campaign, great characters. Absolute disappointment. Yes, Lightfall was an absolute disappointment. And that's the thing. People who played Witch Queen were absolutely excited because of this. And they had earned so many brownie points. Like, people who've never played Destiny don't understand. Bungie had made something that was so good that it made us excited for the next expansion. That's why people had blindly pre-ordered. They spent money on like the deluxe edition because they thought that we were going to get the same banger of an expansion from Witch Queen with Lightfall, and we did not, which is why a lot of people did not get the final shape. That's why the numbers went down. That's why sales aren't where they were, because people did not want to be bitten twice in the butt, right? Now, we can blame Pete Parsons. Again, I think we don't know how much choices were made by Luke or Mark Noseworthy. We can't say that they are not to be blamed either, right? They're top executives. They take some of this blame for sure. Just like Joe had to take blame. He's no longer with the company. He dipped out after the final shape, and I can see why. He knew what was coming. Now, moving on. We are at Bungie leaks. If you don't want leaks, then step aside. This is the future of Destiny. We're getting, and some of these leaks have already been confirmed because of him. Some of these leaks have already been confirmed by Jason. So, it's by people who are actually vouched, who have had actually accurate success on leaks, and especially over the final shape, they leaked a bunch of stuff. So this is what I'm going to take this as truth, because very rarely are they wrong. D3 is shelved according to Jeff Grubb. Hey, I do it was real. Also, no more expansions. It's only 2 expansions, 2 seasons, or sorry, 2 content packs, 2 seasons. So Curse of Osiris and Warmind, right? Imagine that. 2 DLCs, 2 seasons per year. Will release at roughly the same time. Seasons will entirely free aside from the past rewards. 6 months long. Have more to share. Posting this due to what came out about DLCs. Yeah. So you can expect, if you want to play Destiny, you're no longer going to get the big expansions like Final Shape, the Witch Queen, Beyond Light. What we're going to get instead is Curse of Osiris, Warmind size expansions. And if you didn't like that back in Destiny 2 when it first came out, you may or may not like this either. And then within those DLCs, we're going to have mini seasons, which are supposed to be free now, except for the season pass. Let's continue. New seasonal narrative took a hit. I mean, yeah, they fired the narrative lead, so it makes sense that they're going to struggle. No more week-to-week story beats. Thank God. I thought that was garbage anyways. Or story released all at once. 1 intro mission explaining the why of the season. That's it. Only thing other than that is traditional character banter throughout the activity. Okay, whatever. New seasonal loop. Player-based level activities to earn seasonal gear. After that, completing higher level activities to earn a higher score rating alongside higher power gear. All this is to prep for the rally event. Like, faction rally? Rally event occurring 2 times in 1 season, totaling 4 per year. You can only use seasonal weapons armor during rallies. That sounds bad. I'm sorry, any activity that forces you to use anything that you don't want to use, because here's the problem with seasonal loot. Most of it is bad. Most of it is garbage. And the fact that you can't use the armor that you've been grinding for, so that immediately discounts anything you've grinded previously. So season 1, I can only use season 1 loot, but I go to season 2 or the next DLC, you're telling me anything I earned previously for the year I can't use for this event? Bro, that's garbage. A week-long event that will showcase new activities, fire team activity, a PvP activity, a pinnacle activity. Also has way harder versions of seasonal activities, but given much better rewards. In case anyone confused about seasons, we will get content like activities, guns, armor, just no weekly missions like episodes. So there just isn't a big season-long quest. So no quest. We're not getting narrative. Duh. Which means L for narrative, but gameplay won't be affected too much. I'm going to be honest. Lots of negative reactions to this stuff, but I'm personally excited depending on DLC price. This just means I can play once or twice a year for a month instead of 24/7. Yeah, and this is rad team member in the layoffs confirms a new raid is on the way. So if we were wondering if we're going to get a new raid, apparently we are. So there's that. There will be another dungeon coming at some point soon. I mean, we already paid dungeon keys, so we already knew we're getting another dungeon. So the bottom line that we can see here is we are no longer getting massive expansions. Destiny is slowing down immensely. Immensely, Destiny is slowing down. If you thought that Destiny was going to be this long ride where we're going to get expansion after expansion, we are now going to get little DLC packs. You're going to get a little bit of content here, a little bit of content there, and they're going to milk you. Listen, if you thought that Destiny microtransactions were bad, hold on to your butts. We're about to get so much worse, especially that they're making seasons free. That's opening up more doorways for more microtransactions. It's any free-to-play game always latches onto that to make money. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. Come back to this video. Get P. Parsons the F out. Yes. And here's my final thought on this video. People are going to be upset. They're going to be butthurt. Listen, the reality is Destiny will die. It's going to die. It's going to sink because of leadership. Not because I want it to, not because I'm saying it is. Stats, this is all you need to see. The biggest expansion of Destiny's lifetime, and it could not keep 50% of the player base for more than even a month. And it is doing worse. And it not only is it doing worse player retention, but it's doing worse sales, overall game sales, than the worst expansion in Destiny history. That is bad. And we're going to get less content. We're going to get less story, and it's going to be dragged out for more than months. They're putting all their eggs in the basket of Marathon and hoping that pops off. And if that's free, then I guarantee you that's also going to be a microtransaction cesspool as well. As long as Pete is at the helm and the people who are making these bad decisions are at the helm, you can bet that Destiny will not get better. Sony, we are seeing it live. Sony is going to take over Bungie. And maybe with Sony taking over Bungie and having Destiny as its own, we might see something fresh. We might see something new. And honestly, the way that people are looking and talking about how getting upset that there is no Destiny 3, maybe that's what the community needs, is for Bungie to dissipate and for essentially Sony to make something new and fresh. I don't think he mentioned it in his thing, but the reason why Bungie even went and partnered with Sony was solvency. If they had not partnered and sold themselves to Sony, they were going to dissolve. And why did we get to that point? Because of bad management. Bungie's always toted this prideful, we stand on our own, but then they make stupid mistakes. Like they cannot do it. Warframe has lasted about as long as Destiny, and they have yet to have any problems that Bungie has. That's the funny thing. Warframe has flourished where Destiny has consistently had an up and down of struggling to exist. Let that sink in. That's because of bad management. The management at DE for Warframe knows what the community wants and sells the game to them. They're like, here's the game. We're going to do everything you need and want. We're going to make it to where you want to spend money in this game. Spend money on this game. Whereas Bungie's like, we don't. Sometimes there literally were developers for Bungie that were arguing and fighting with fans about how they were wrong. Bungie was unwilling to listen to the community because they thought they were better than. Look what happens. This is what happens when you don't listen to your community. And one last ditch effort. No, it's too late. And this is exactly why it was a too late gamble. Right there. You can't decide to listen to your community at the last minute when it really counts, because you've already done the damage. People don't forget. You disrespect your consumer, they're not going to buy your product. I say the same thing for like Halo Infinite and 343. People are so desperate to defend that game. If you disrespect the consumer, they're not coming back and they're not going to stay. That's it. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor. Hit the like button on this YouTube video. Subscribe to the channel for more. As always,